I am not perfect, but in my imperfections, I am perfectly prepared to be imperfectly perfect. Mr. Toastmaster, and anyone who has ever failed at something in life and kept rising. Oh, I remember as if it were yesterday. It was my Little League baseball championship game. I was 12 years old. We were playing under the lights. Our team was up 3-2. It's the bottom of the ninth inning, 2 on, 2 outs. Their biggest hitter and scariest player, Patrick Bell, is up to bat. Patrick gets into the stance. Our pitcher, Mike, barrels him down. Gets the sign. Strike! Right down the middle. Patrick looks, digs in, waits again for another pitch. Mike again puts down a full-fledged strike right down the middle again. Oh, we think that we have this one in the bag. But on his next pitch, it is a high fly ball going out of bounds. I am trying to track it down. I got it. Where is it? I lose sight of it in the lights. And before I know it, it hits me right in the center of the forehead, knocking me out completely. Now, witnesses around say that they heard a very piercing, screaming sound coming from the stands. It was my mom. Then they said that she sounded like she was having an exorcism. It sounded something like this: "Leave him alone." Now, I cannot confirm or deny that that could have happened because it sounds kind of like what my mom would do. We headed to the hospital, and something that I need to tell you first before we go any further. I am accident prone, especially when I was a kid. In the chat, is there anyone else who is accident prone, or is it just me? Please put it in the chat for me if you are accident prone. Had many accidents happen along the way. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Donald. I thought I would be the only one. Appreciate that. Just you. Oh, okay, Debbie. Appreciate that. I see. That's what happens when you have the district director here. But the fact is that I was accident prone. In fact, at the hospital, I had my own room with my name on it. When I walked in, doctors would see me and say, "Welcome back, Roger. We've been expecting you." Oh, inside the room had the famous flowers and, of course, glass of water. It's as if they knew I was coming back again. When I left the hospital that day and went home, of course, the doctors made sure to say, "We'll see you again. Come soon." But at home, as I sat there on my bed, my mom came over to me and she could see that I was upset. Fear was in me. I told her that I never wanted to play sports.
Sorry, Roger. I think that was me. My apologies.
That's okay. Some people like to stop me when I'm talking. I get it. I understand. Well, when I got there, I said to my mom that I never want to play sports again. That I'm just too afraid of constantly failing or getting hurt. And my mom turned to me and said, "Fear is a mindset. Don't let it fool you. Let it refuel you. I never forgot those words. Many years later, I would find myself in many different predicaments. Again, still going to that same hospital, of course. But I can remember one particular moment. I was in high school in my junior year. The year is 1988. Now, before you start calculating my age, stop. We are about to proceed in track and field. And of course, I'm a part of the 4x100 relay team. The four members are Ian, Lee, myself, and Marlon. We were the odds-on favorites to win it all that year. In our semifinals, we did a record of 48.8 seconds. When we reached to the nationals, we walked in our traditional neon Nike tracksuits. You remember the ones that used to go when you walked? Did anybody have one of those tracksuits? Please put in the chat if you ever had one of those tracksuits. Put it in the chat right now for me. Huh? Let me see if anybody is like me who had one of those types of tracksuits. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Stephanie. We were the odds-on favorites to win it all. There was no fear on that day for us, or at least that's what we thought. When the race started, I love this one from Gail, too fancy. When the race started, Lee blazed out of the blocks like a bat out of hell. Stick! Lee scurried down the straightaway like a squirrel on steroids. You ever seen a squirrel on steroids? It's something like this. Stick! I took off like a Toastmaster terrified of table topics. I'm looking right now in this screen and I'm betting there is a few of you who are terrified of table topics right now. But I had no stick. You see, the squirrel was still 5 meters behind. One last ditch effort. Stick! And when he tried to put it in my hand, it fell on the ground. And with that, all hopes of being national champions that year. Let me ask you a question. It's often said that greatness comes from within, and I truly believe it does. But in your race of life, in your moments under the lights, have you ever dropped the baton? Have you ever had moments when you failed? When fear paralyzed you and made you feel like you couldn't achieve your goals? Put it in the chat for me if you've ever had those type of moments. It instantly reminded me of what my mom said. To not let fear fool you. Rather, let it refuel you. We sat in the middle of the field, dejected. Our coach came over to us and put his arms around us. And he said, "Don't worry about it, boys. You'll get another chance. If you believe it, you will achieve it." I jumped up and I said, "There's no way. We just lost." But you see, my problem is that I wasn't looking at the big picture. Instead, sometimes in life, we often try to look at that small one, the negative one, the one that says you didn't make it, you failed, you didn't do well, fear creeping in, instead of looking at the big one, that big picture that said we made it to the national championships. 4 boys from a small school with a record time of 48.8 seconds. And we did it together. I have often wondered if when my mom sat me down that day after that baseball game, would she have known the impact of her words to me? Across the timeline of my life, I have had moments when I have doubted myself. Have you ever doubted yourself? You ever had those moments when you've doubted yourself? Maybe at work, maybe with relationships, maybe at home. Thank you, Donald. Many times. The baseball diamond. I doubted if I could ever play again. On the track, I doubted if I could never do it again. And yes, history would repeat itself on the grandest stage of them all. Allow me to take you 27 years later, 37 years later, sorry. It is 2015. Oh, 2015. I made it to my very first World Championships of Public Speaking. It's the first time I made it here. Oh, I can't believe it. I am calling everybody, telling them that I finally made it. After years of being in Toastmasters, I am going to the World Championship of Public Speaking. And I'm doing it with a speech all about my grandmother. See, my grandmother was one of the most important people of my life. If my mom was number one, well, Grams was 1A. She was right there. The many lessons that she had taught me throughout my life helped me to be who I am today. And she was 95 years old, and I wanted to do something special for her so that she would realize how much she meant to me. So I created a speech all about her and her lessons. And from January all the way through to April, I never expected that that speech would get me to the World Championship of Public Speaking. But I did tell you that sometimes fear can fool you or it can refuel you. It's about a month before I'm heading to Las Vegas, and I get a phone call from my mom. Mom tells me that my grandmother isn't doing well. She fell on the bus and she got a little cut on her foot. Now, old school people would often think that it's just easy to just put a little bit of rubbing alcohol or something simple on it and just let it go. But what my grandmother didn't realize was that the cut was very deep and it required stitches. And instead of getting that, she left it. And that turned into gangrene. By the time it was too late to fix anything, she had to have it amputated. Now, let me ask you a question. If a person is very independent, when you remove the very thing that allows them to go wherever they have to get to, what do you think happens? My grandmother went from the traditional big mama to this. I went to Grenada to visit her. And when I reached there, fear paralyzed me again. To look at a woman who I had known to be so strong and independent, vibrant, to what I'd seen right there. I did my speech for her, and I could see the smile on her face as I performed the speech, all the funny moments, the learning lessons, everything that she had taught along the way. And after I was finished, I said to her, "I'm a lady," as I would call her. "You can't do anything foolish. I'm supposed to be doing this speech on your birthday, August the 9th. My grandmother looked at me, she smiled, and she nodded. Now, let me tell you that in actuality, the date in which I was supposed to do that speech was not until August the 13th. But I wanted her to hold on to something because I knew that she had fear. And that fear was gripping her more than she would let on. So I wanted her to hold on to something. Have you ever told a small white lie so that you can allow someone to feel better in that moment? I promise we will not be mad if you put it in the chat. We will not judge you. If you've ever had a moment where you've had to tell a white lie just to make someone feel better, let me know if it's ever happened to you, because that's what I had to do in that moment. Yes, thank you, Donald. Donald seems to be the one person that I'm going to have to find out who he is because he keeps on continuously participating. I love you, Donald. I don't know you, but thank you very much. Thank you, Cynthia, very much. Appreciate that. We all have. We've all had moments when we've had to do it. 2 days, 2 days before I was leaving to go, I got a phone call from my dad. It is the 10th of August. When I heard my dad's voice, I already knew what was happening. And he said to me, "You already know." My grandmother kept her promise. She stayed around on August 9th for her 96th birthday and let herself go the following day. Now, can you imagine? I now have to go to Las Vegas and perform a speech, which is now essentially a eulogy for the world to hear. And I have to do it in front of millions and millions of people. Fear creeps in again. Fear starts to paralyze me. Fear starts to remind me of that little boy on the diamond. Fear reminds me of those 4 boys on the track and field. Fear has me wondering if I can find the greatness within me to do this. When I reach to Las Vegas and I'm at the briefing, I am sitting there and I'm listening to the many contestants that are in the room. Do we have any contestants here? Anyone competing this year? Do we have anyone? Please put in the chat if you are competing. If there's anybody who's competing, I would love to find out who they are. But I'm in that room and I'm listening to everyone and they're talking. And they're saying different things about, oh, when you come here, you have to be on your best. Man, I'm telling you, look, when you get to the World Championships, you got to come with everything. Oh no, you have to make sure that you move the crowd. No, man, you have to come with a proper speech that will enlighten them. Oh no, what you have to do if you want to be on top, you have to come to the world championships and you have to have a prop. I don't have a prop. I just have me. Do you remember that small picture I was telling you about before? That one that brings the negativity, the one that constantly thinks that you can't do it, the one that says, oh my gosh, I'm doubting myself, I've got fear. That's the one that I stopped looking at, that big one. The one that said that I made it here. The one that said that I was representing my city and my club. The one that said I was doing a speech for my grandmother. Instead, I let fear fool me. I let the fear get to me. And when I went on stage and I stood on stage and there was a part of my speech that said, if you are looking for that one person who will change your life, take a look in the mirror. It all begins with you. 5 minutes before I was going on stage, I made a right into the convenience store and got myself a mirror because all the thoughts of what people were saying, all the things that they were saying about you need a prop, you need to be on top, you got to do everything the right way. And when I went on stage, I pulled out that mirror. I looked in the mirror, and when I went to put it back in my pocket, well, the mirror said, I'm not interested in going in there. And it fell on the ground, on stage, and broke in front of millions of people. I failed. I failed miserably. Not only did I fail for myself, but I failed in my mind and in my heart for my grandmother. I failed because I had fear. I let fear fool me instead of refueling me. I ran outside once I was finished, and I sat in a corner and I wept. And there was a young man that came over to me, big guy, blocked the sun, stood over me and he put his hand on me and said, you're going to be all right. And he could see in my face, just like my mother saw in my face, just like my coaches saw in my face, that I wasn't. In that moment, greatness was not within me. Fear fooled me. And he looked at me and he said, son, don't worry about it. You'll be back. If you believe it, you will achieve it. That man's name was Steve. I'll never forget it. He had his tag right on the side of him. And he was looking at that big picture. That one that said, I made it here. That one that said, I'll get another chance. That one that said, start to believe in yourself. And don't be a fool to fear. We all know what fear means, right? The two meanings of it. If who's fast enough to put it in the chat, let's see, but I'll say it anyways. You can forget everything and run, or you can face everything and rise. I chose the latter. from that point on. I realized that in that moment, that far too often in my life, I have allowed fear to fool me. I have had those moments when I have thought that I couldn't achieve the goals that I set out for. You are coming to the end of your year. And I'm pretty sure, Madam District Director, you have had moments when fear paralyzed you, but you've also had moments when you have had much success here. I'm sure that you have seen the brilliance of many of your members, and you have had some very trying and challenging times. I'm sure that the members here from all different places, all different districts, and all different states and places in the world have been in these places at some point. Or maybe you didn't get a ball to the face. Maybe you didn't drop the baton. Maybe you didn't break a mirror on stage. But I'm pretty sure you've had moments when life's race made you falter and fear set in, self-doubt, worries, that small picture. What did you do? Did you forget everything and run? Or did you face everything and rise? Today's a new day. A new year will be beginning at the end of this month. July 1st will start a brand new year for Toastmasters International. And you have an opportunity to prove once again how strong you can be. There will be times when balls will come down on you and you will wonder if you can catch all that is happening around you. There will be times when, oh my goodness, I dropped this again. And hopefully there will never be a time when you will drop a mirror. 7 years of bad luck. But you will rise. Don't let fear fool you. Let it refuel you. Now you're probably wondering, whatever happened in those moments, Roger? What happened? You can't leave us hanging. Well, while I was in the hospital, they got him out on the next pitch. We won that championship. Those 4 boys, well, they went back to the national championships the following year. But this time, they won it all with a record time of 47.5 seconds, a record that lasted for 5 years. And me, from breaking mirrors, I went back to the World Championship of Public Speaking in 2016, in 2018, and in 2021. And I walked away 3rd in the world last year. Don't tell me that fear has to paralyze you. It doesn't. You can take that fear and let it refuel you to allow you to understand how great you can be. Because greatness, yes, it lies within, but those that are around you, like my mom, like my coach, like Steve, and like many of you here, are there to pick you up, dust you off, and allow you to move forward, seeing the big picture. Congratulations to all of you who made it through yet another trying year in Toastmasters. Congratulations to all of you who have vowed to make sure that you achieved your goals. Congratulations to all of you who stood tall and didn't allow fear to fool you. Congratulations to you. You believed in yourself. You believed that you could be unstoppable. Because, like someone once said, you imagined with all your mind, believed with all your heart, and achieved with all your might. Madam District Director, congratulations on a great year. And to those who are coming in this year, don't let fear fool you. Let it refuel you so that you will catch those balls that fly in the air and you can see them. You will pass the baton correctly to your team and to your members. And of course, you will look in the mirror and you will say, we did it. Back to you.